Hello, welcome to Captain Dorge's Armory. This is Captain Dorja. You can see here we are on the 8.8 test server. And from the 8.8 test server patch notes, one of the biggest things that I wanted to look at, aside from new tanks and new maps and revamps of old maps, was all the changes to German vehicles. I'm a big German player, and I've really enjoyed German tanks. There's a lot of good German tanks in the game. And this test server build has a lot of changes to engine characteristics on a lot of different German tanks. And it doesn't say what those changes are. All it says is change to engine characteristics, and then it lists off all the tanks. So I went and I screenshotted the vehicle statistics and engine characteristics of all the tanks listed that were shown having engine changes, and we're going to look at the test server to see what the differences are. I don't own all of these tanks on the live server, and I don't want to buy all of them, the ones that I don't own on the test server. So some of them we're just going to see like tech tree windows, but I do actually own most of these tanks, so that's good. And the first thing we're going to start with is the E50. So here we go. Here's the E50. The E50 used to get a 1200 horsepower engine. You can see it's dropped down to 900 horsepower, and they've increased the chance of fire by 5%. So you lost a 30 or a quarter of your horsepower, and your chance of fire has gone up by 5%. So for German tank drivers who love catching on fire constantly, good news, your chance of catching on fire has increased. Happy days. Some other things for the E50 that have changed. The traverse speed's gone up from 26 degrees to 32 degrees, so now your E50 will be able to turn quicker. I'm also seeing that they've increased the armor. The frontal armor on the E50 has gone up from 120 on the hull to 150. That is awesome. The turret is still the same, and the side armor is still the same. It looks like the gun stats are still the same. They've increased the rate of fire on the gun by 0.25 rounds per minute. That's not a huge deal, but it is a nice little buff. For some reason, my radio has been reset to a tier 3. Not sure why. Make sure everything here's okay. Yeah, and that's looking like it's it for the E50. So yeah, losing a lot of horsepower, higher chance of catching on fire, but thicker frontal armor. So that's kind of interesting, and slightly more rate of fire on the gun. So that's kind of cool, I guess. We're just going to take a quick look at the E50M to see if there's anything changing on that, because I've heard that there were going to be some changes. So here's the E50M. So the E50M, same 1200 horsepower, same 12% chance of fire, same 750 kilogram weight. Same hit points, tank still weighs the same engine power, same speed limit, same traverse speed. The armor on the E50M, again, is up from 120 to 150. Same turret armor, same side armor. Everything on the gun is the same. Turret traverse speed is the same. View range is the same. Radio range is the same. Okay, so the E50M, the only real change to the E50M is a thicker frontal hull armor, which is cool because one of the two standout things of the E50M are its long range capability and its frontal armor. Just kind of cosmetic change. They took away the gun mantlet that I liked, and they've put a really ugly Sapkopf on there, so that's not cool. But that is completely cosmetic. Alright, moving on. E75. Let's just get rid of that. So, E75, that is not the right engine. I need to make sure all these tanks are in their fully upgraded status, because as we can see, my E75 has been reset to stock configuration, which is not cool at all. And look, it even took my rigs off. What the hell? Alright, so here's the E75. Here's the new fully upgraded engine versus the old one. Again, it's gone down from 1200 horsepower to 900 horsepower, 5% increased chance of fire, and they've doubled the engine's weight. So the engine now weighs 1,300 kilograms. So great, more chance of getting set on fire, just what every German tanker wants, and less horsepower, which kind of sucks because one of the biggest things about the E-75 was, in addition to being so well armored and having a powerful gun, it had surprising mobility. So this looks like it's going to be a mobility nerf to the E-75, which is unfortunate. I think it should still be a pretty good tank, but losing 25% of its horsepower is definitely going to be something you notice. Just out of curiosity here. Now the E-75 is only going to have a 60 horsepower advantage over the 4502P, and it's going to weigh 20 tons more, or about 13 tons more. So I'm thinking the E-75 may have just gotten sort of a mobility nerf bat, kind of down almost onto the level of the 4502P, which is unfortunate, because that was part of what made the E-75 so good. Okay, so moving on to other things. They've increased the speed limit by 10 kph, and they've increased the traverse speed on the hull from 21 to 30 degrees. So the traverse speed increase is cool. I'm not sure how... I mean, I didn't really have any problems with the E-75 traversing, but yeah, sure, it'll be able to traverse a lot faster. That's cool, I guess. I guess the thing that's most valuable about that traverse speed increase is I think it'll help you maintain speed on corners. So that could be good. With the lower horsepower and the increased traverse speed, hopefully you'll maintain your speed on corners better. I've also heard rumor that on the tanks where they're dropping the engine power, that they're also going to lower the ground resistance, so the tank will actually... I've heard rumor that your performance won't be that affected, but there's no way for me to actually quantitatively test that. So I'm gonna put the rumor out there, and I have no idea if it's actually true. Any other changes to the E-75 here? It looks like that is it. Just, they're raising the speed, raising the traverse speed, but slashing the engine, and increasing the chance of fire. So yeah, I mean, they raised the speed of my IS-7. My IS-7's now fast as hell, but I don't have any more horsepower, so my IS-7 is still the same speed that it used to be, unless I go down a hill. Well, they've raised the speed of the E-75, and they've now chopped its horsepower, so it'll be interesting to see what the actual mobility of the tank becomes. Okay, let's move on. Next one, we're going to look at the Jagdpanther. Here we are, Mr. Jagdpanther. Let's just check that she's in the upgraded condition, because all of these tanks appear to have been reset to stock. Jagdpanther does not have a turret. Derp de derp. They took my rigs off. That's why I had so many rigs laying around. They took my rigs off. Alright, so here's the engine on the Jagdpanther now. The Jagdpanther has lost 50 horsepower, the engine weight has doubled, and the chance of fire is still the same. Okay, so the tank has lost 50 horsepower. I don't think that's going to be that big of a deal. The Jagdpanther has always had fairly good mobility, and I think a drop in 50 horsepower will still keep it as a fairly mobile tank destroyer. So I'm not too upset by this change. I don't think it'll really affect the tank that much. Speed limit has gone up from 46 to 55 kph. Traverse speed has increased from 29 to 32 degrees. That's cool. The armor on the tank is the same. The gun is the same. The view range has gone up by 20 meters. It's now 370 meters. It used to be 350. So that's a nice increase. Everybody likes more view range on any tank where they can get it. And signal range is the same. So the Jagdpanther is getting a little bit of a horsepower nerf, but it's getting a traverse buff and is getting a view range buff. So I think the Jagdpanther is probably actually getting buffed overall. I think this is going to improve the Jagdpanther. Right, moving on. Next we're going to look at the Jagdpanther 2. I do not own a Jagdpanther 2, and I don't have one on test server either. So we're just going to look at its characteristics. One thing that's interesting to note is the previous Jagdpanther 2, to get its fully upgraded engine, you had to go through two other engine upgrades. So you used to have a stock engine, one engine, two engine, top engine. Now you just have stock engine, top engine. So that's kind of interesting. So the hit points for the tank are going to be the same. It looks like it's going to be about the same weight. The engine power, it's losing 170 horsepower. Chance of fire is the same, and the weight of the engine has gone up. Okay, so 170 horsepower decrease is actually pretty substantial. The Jagdpanther 2 is basically a Ferdinand that's fast and has no armor. So with an engine horsepower decrease as big as 170 horsepower, you might actually see some real decrease in performance on the tank. So that could be interesting. I don't own a Jagdpanther 2. I've never played a Jagdpanther 2, so it's hard for me to elaborate any more on what I think will happen. But it looks like you're probably going to be able to expect some mobility decrease. Interestingly enough, they've bumped up the speed limit by 10 kph. Oh my god, they've raised the traverse speed to 34 degrees per second from 28. I always thought the Jagdpanther 2 was a very quickly traversing tank destroyer, and it's going to traverse even faster now. That's good. I mean, traverse speed on a tank destroyer is always good for the TD driver. So yeah, you can expect that. It's got the same gun. I'm imagining the gun has not changed. Same view range, and alright, so it looks like the Jagdpanther 2 is it's getting a traverse buff, and it's getting a horsepower nerf. So the Jagdtiger, again, let's make sure my Jagdtiger is in the fully upgraded state, because all the tanks that they've changed have had all their modules taken off. Excuse me, my throat is real scratchy right now. Alright, so the Jagdtiger. Okay, so anything that used to use the Maybach HL234, which was like every German tank of the game, it looks like just about all of them are going to take a horsepower nerf. So the Jagdtiger is losing 170 horsepower, which is really going to suck, because the Jagdtiger was never that mobile, and it's just lost 170 horsepower. Chance of fire is still the same. Good, they didn't raise the chance of fire. The Jagdtiger catches fire a lot, and they doubled the weight of the engine. Kind of the same as on all these other tanks. Let's see, any other changes here? The speed limit has gone up by 10 kph, but I mean, I doubt we'll ever see 38 kph on a Jagdtiger with 700 horsepower. So that's totally cool. Yeah, thanks for the speed increase. I'm really excited about this. They've increased the traverse speed from 21 to 26. That is awesome. The armor appears to be unchanged. The gun appears to be unchanged, which is good. Don't you screw with my Jagdtiger gun. It's great the way it is. Same view range, same signal range. Just for out of curiosity's sake, I'm going to take a look at the Jagdtiger 88. What the horsepower is in that and what the weight is in that. So the Jagdtiger 88, oh god, has a 700 horsepower engine and weighs 69 tons, and my Jagdtiger weighs 71 tons. Okay, so the Jagdtiger 88 is going to have a little less weight, and oh my god, they've increased the weight of the Jagdtiger. I'm not sure how. Okay, so the Jagdtiger has gotten heavier by about 5 tons. Huh. Okay, so they made the Jagdtiger 5 tons heavier and cut its horsepower and raised its top speed. Unless they really hit the ground resistance on the suspension, I'm thinking the Jagdtiger is going to become slower than the Jagdtiger 88. And that is going to be very, very bad, because the Jagdtiger is already not a mobile tank destroyer. And with its armor layout, the 250mm armor is thick, but it's really only right here, and no one shoots there, and if they do, they just fire premium rounds anyway. So, I mean, it's not like the Jagdtiger is a bad tank destroyer. It's very good. It is really good. But it does not need a mobility buff, and it looks like it's getting a pretty big mobility debuff. So, happy days to drive Germans. Pretty excited about this so far. Okay, Panther comes next. Again, I don't own a Panther, So we're going to just look at it on the vehicle details and on the tech tree. It looks like the weight and the hit points are the same. The Panther is losing 50 horsepower, which is not a big deal. I don't think. I think it'll leave it in about the same boat as the Jag Panther. Sort of a slight mobility decrease, but probably not really that noticeable. They're increasing the top speed again from 48 to 55. Traverse speed's going up from 25 to 30. The armor's the same. The guns. They are... Well, they're swapping around the tech tree a little bit. It looks like you're still going to get the same gun choices, but now this gun, the 75mm L100, which is referred to by a bunch of people as the comedy gun because it's just heinously long and stupid looking. This gun used to be an offshoot of the 88, which now is not even an option, which is weird. You used to have to upgrade the turret before you could upgrade the gun. Now you can put this gun in this turret. So you can use the fully upgraded gun in the stock turret now. And before, if you wanted to upgrade to the Tiger II from the Panther, you did it by researching through the gun path. And the Panther II used to be down here through the engine paths. Now we can see the Panther II is up here above the gun path, and the Tiger II is down here by the engine path, which is kind of weird. And they've removed one of the engine upgrades, so you only have to grind out one engine, one tracks. You have an additional radio now. Okay, well, that's no big deal. You'll have the Fug 7 from, like, all time. They've lowered the grind that you're going to have to do on the Panther and made it so that you can put the stock gun on, or the upgraded gun on the stock turret, and that's cool. And they've just changed where the Tiger II and where the Panther are located. So not really a lot of changes to the Panther. So let's move on to the Panther II. Okay, Panther II. I really liked the Panther II when I had it. I thought it was a good tank. Let's take a look at the Panther II. So, again, it's lost 170 horsepower, doubled the engine rate, no change in the fire. They've simplified the tech tree. They've like really pared down the research tree for the Panther. The Panther II, I mean, again, only two engine upgrades now instead of... Only two engines now instead of four like there used to be. It looks like they've removed the... Wait a second, what the hell? Okay, they've removed the 88 L56. You can still get these three guns the same way you always could. You can still get the L71 the same way you always could. And you still need the turret upgrade before you can get the L71. But you can no longer mount the L56 88, which is good because that would be stupid anyway. Okay, so yeah, the Panther II, it lost 170 horsepower. They simplified the tech tree for the actual vehicle itself. The speed has stayed the same. The traverse speed has gone up from 26 to 32. It looks like the armor on the tank is staying the same. Looks like everything else is going to stay the same. Okay, so Panther II, we're getting more traverse speed, less horsepower, and simpler tech tree. So next we're going to look at the Tiger. Here is Das Tiger. So the Tiger, the research tree looks pretty much the same. The only real differences are that, again, they've cut out the intermediate engines. Now you just upgrade from stock to best. No grinding through two previous engines, which was it added a lot of grind to the Tiger. Again, the Tiger's lost 170 horsepower. It looks like that's probably about it, though. They've increased its speed by 10 kph and given it 2 more traverse, which is cool. The looks like the view range has actually gone up. That's nice. So yeah, I don't know how bad the Tiger is going to be hurt by that reduction in horsepower, but potentially it could be hurt pretty badly because, I mean, by now we're all familiar with the Tiger in World of Tanks versus the popular imagination of the Tiger, which is that it was just like impossible to damage and it just killed everything in one shot. Well, in World of Tanks, the Tiger ends up actually being fairly thin on armor with a really powerful gun. Oh, God, I pushed the service record button. My game might crash. Yay, I got out safely. So the Tiger in World of Tanks is like thin on armor, but strong on gun and mobility. And since they're not changing any of the armor, but they are changing the mobility, that might make the Tiger a little worse, which I don't think anyone here really thought needed to happen. The VK2801, they have removed one of the engines on the upgrade path. It looks like the fully upgraded engine is the same as it always was. Same horsepower, same chance of fire. It's a little heavier, but only like it's 130 kilograms heavier. I don't think that's too much of a big deal. They've pared down the research tree for this tank, so it's not quite as much of a grind to upgrade it. That looks to be about it for the 2801. Doesn't look like there's a lot of changes on that tank. So the Tiger 2 is the next victim. My Tiger 2 has been reset to the stock configuration, which is not good. There's my fully upgraded Tiger 2 engine, turret, and gun. So, new Tiger 2. I can tell you right now, we've lost 170 horsepower. The engine weight is doubled, and the chance of fire is the same. The litany of tanks with the Maybach HL234 continues. That was kind of the universal high-tier German engine until you got that really good one in the E50, the E75, and the E100, and the E50M. Now it looks like the HL234 is not going to be the main engine anymore. It's going to be the HL230 versions, and there's a couple of different versions. Okay, so my Tiger is now... It's got a 38 kilometer per hour speed limit, but it's lost 170 horsepower. My traverse speed has gone up by 2 degrees. My armor is the same. My gun is... The rate of fire on the gun has been buffed by about half a round per minute. That's a welcome change. Turret traverse speed has been raised by 2 degrees. View range has been cut by 10 meters. And signal range is the same. So, a little bit of gun tinkering. They made the gun fire a little faster, which the Tiger 2 really needs. They have lowered the view range by 10 meters, which the Tiger 2 probably does not really need. A little bit of turret traverse increase, that's nice. You know, I'll take it, not going to complain about that. A little bit of hull traverse increase, not going to complain about that. 10 kph of extra speed limit, which I feel like that speed increase is of dubious value, since with an 870 horsepower engine, getting the thing up to 28 kph was hard enough. I don't think with a 700 horsepower engine I'll ever see 30, let alone 38. So, yeah. Alright, that's it for the German engine changes, and at face value, just looking at stats on paper, what it looks like is pretty much all of these German tanks are going to take a mobility nerf. They're going to get increased top speed, but it'll only be usable for most of them when they go downhill. They're all getting a traverse increase, which is kind of nice, but losing lots of horsepower, which is really not cool at all. Oh, and the E50, I think, is more likely to catch fire, which sucks. Lastly, I want to look really quick at the 3601H. Yeah, 3601H, because I've heard the Konish gun is getting nerfed, and I just want to compare my 3601H with a Konish gun on the test server to my 3601H with Konish gun on the live server. And the only difference I'm seeing... Okay, I'm seeing two differences. The damage per shot has gone from 165 to 135, but the rate of fire has gone up from 11.76 to 14.29. So it looks to me like what they're doing with the Konish gun is because of this 3001H being a tier 5 heavy, they're lowering the damage per shot to be more in the area of a tier 5 tank, which is, that is reasonable to me. And they're compensating by allowing the rate of fire to change, which makes sense again because you can balance a gun for different tiers by giving it worse rate of fire on a lower tier tank and then raise the rate of fire on a higher tier one. So it looks to me like the Konish gun is fairly well untouched. Aiming time, penetration, accuracy, those are all untouched. You're losing 30 damage per hit, but you're gaining 3 rounds per minute on the 3601. So I think that's actually going to be not really any change at all. And about the only thing that I can think of is it might make the 75mm kind of a little bit more viable. Although looking at them stat for stat, I don't think so anymore. Because the 75mm, you have less penetration, less rate of fire, less accuracy. Yeah, 75mm is not better than the Konish gun still. So yeah, keep the Konish gun. The L70 can go sit on an egg. Right, so I hope you found I doubt any of you are going to be happy to see all these German tanks losing all their horsepower. I'm not happy about it, but I'm not saying go cry on the forums that German tanks are nerfed, Russian bias, blah, 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 because simply put, we just don't know yet. Until this comes out live, everything you see on the test server is subject to change. I just realized my engine on this tank's been... Oh, my 3601 lost 150 horsepower. No! Its speed limit went up by 50. Its traverse speed went down by 3. Its armor stayed the same. That's not cool. My turret traverse went up. View range stayed the same. Alright, well... Oh, I got 100 more health. Cool. Okay, so the 3601's not quite exactly the same as it used to be. It's getting its mobility... It's getting its engine power really hit. But again, speed limit raised a lot. So yeah, we'll see about how valuable that is. Anyway, as I was saying before I noticed that, I'm not encouraging people to be, complaining about like OP Russian tanks or developer bias or anything like that. Just remember, everything on the test server is subject to change, and there are a lot of stats on tanks that we cannot actually see, the so-called soft stats. If they slash my engine horsepower, but then give my tank a huge... If they fiddle with the suspension ground resistance, I can't look at that. I can't tell you that that's been done. There's no way I can quantitatively test that, really. That would be very valid. But the rumor is that they're going to reduce German tank ground resistance, which, coupled with these horsepower reductions, may very well be intended to keep the mobility of the German tanks about where it was. And honestly, I'm fine with the mobility of every single tank that I just looked at staying the same. And some of them, if it goes down a little bit, I don't even care. The Panther and the Jag Panther, if they lost a little bit of mobility, that's not a big deal. If the 3601 lost a little bit of mobility, that's not a big deal. The Tiger II, I would like it to not lose any mobility because it's not very mobile as it is. The E50, I would like to not lose a lot of mobility either, just because all the Tier 9 mediums are very mobile. And if you take away its mobility, you're dealing it a pretty heavy blow. Kind of the sort of similar thing for the E75. The E75 is probably... Well, I'll come right out and say it. The E75 is overpowered. It's it's too strong of a combination of speed, armor, and gun. Mobility, armor, and gun. It's too strong of a combination, I think, right now. So honestly, if the E75 takes a little bit of a mobility nerf, that's probably actually a good thing for the game overall, but it's definitely not a good thing for the E75. If it loses a little bit of mobility, it's going to make it a lot less fun. It's going to make it a lot less powerful. Anyway, we'll see how that pans out. The one that I'm really actually thinking, if this turns out to be a nerf the way it looks like, the one that I'm potentially going to be upset about is the Jagdtiger. The Jagdtiger is already a fairly slow tank, and what I'm seeing right here is they're going to reduce its mobility below that of the Jagdtiger 88. And I had a Jagdtiger 88. I bought a Jagdtiger 88. I paid the 10,000 gold for the tank. I put camo on it, and I bought 100% crew. That was before I realized that putting a separate crew in a premium tank was stupid. So I spent like 12,000 gold or something on a Jagdtiger 88, and I hated it because its mobility sucked ass. So if they take away my Jagdtiger mobility, which it's not like the Jagdtiger is mobile as it is, if they take away my Jagdtiger mobility, I'm not going to be pleased. But anyway, I don't want to end on that dark note, so we're going to be looking at map previews on Cormoran's Swamp and South Coast later. We're going to be looking at Russian tanks later, and we'll take a look at new German tanks later too. So until next time, guys, Captain Dorja, and just remember, you can never have enough big guns. Right, this is getting tacked on at the end of my German vehicle changes video as kind of an addendum to the German engine changes. I talked about German engine changes, and a lot of what I talked about, the things that I was very curious about specifically was changes to the engine on the E50, the E75, and the Jagdtiger. All of these tanks lost a significant amount of horsepower. The Jagdtiger lost about 170, but it gained a lot of traverse speed. A lot of traverse speed, actually. 5 degrees per second. That's quite a bit. E75 lost 25% of its horsepower, but it gained 9 degrees of traverse speed and 10 kph of top speed. And the E50 lost a quarter of its horsepower, gained a little bit of traverse speed, and I think the top speed is still the same. So I haven't played any of these tanks on the test server. I've just read the changes, looked at the changes, haven't played any of them. And I'm going to put this little disclaimer here in 2 other places, just so that it gets out there. While I haven't played any of these, I did watch some footage of Quickie Baby playing. Specifically, he played the E50 and he played the E75. And Quickie Baby is a very good player, far better than I am. And he played these 2 tanks on his live stream of the test server. And here's the summary of what Quickie Baby said. And I agree with these, and I also trust Quickie Baby implicitly. He's a very, very good player and knows the game extremely well. So for the E50, kind of the Quickie Baby findings were that the tank still reaches its top speed. It just takes a little longer to get there, which is not a big deal. Even with the buff to traverse speed, it's not a very big buff. The tank still doesn't traverse very fast. When you're at top speed, it doesn't turn very good. He tried to ram kill a Leopard 1, and the Leopard just reversed out of his way. And, so... But, I mean, bad traverse speed on the E50, if you drive the E50, you are very used to that, because it's got bad traverse speed. I mean, the Panther 2 has bad traverse speed, the E50 has bad traverse speed. We're used to it by now. So, moving on to the E75. Here's the Quickie Baby findings. You go up hills pretty slow, but that's to be expected. You know, you're a big, heavy tank, and you lost some horsepower. Bright side of this, though, is that the tank actually does traverse in a circle a lot faster than it used to. It also turns corners at a higher speed. It doesn't bleed as much speed turning a corner because of the higher traverse speed, so that's nice. The tank takes longer to reach its old top speed than it used to, but it now can actually go faster than that. It can exceed its old top speed of 30 kph on. He was playing on the airfield map, driving on like desert sand, and was getting above 30 kph. And when you go down hills, it'll now go like 55 or something. So if you can get in a position where you can run down a big hill, you can build up a lot of speed and get almost like the ability to sprint, which is kind of cool. So, in a nutshell, according to Des Quickie Baby, and I kind of would agree with this from watching his stream, even though you've got a big horsepower nerf, in some ways the E75's mobility has actually been buffed. It's probably not as fast overall as it used to be, but it hasn't really lost much. And unless you find yourself going up a lot of really big hills, I think you're not really going to notice the change to the E75 that much. And if you are sitting there cursing your lower acceleration, at the very least, when that T-54 runs in and tries to flank you, and you traverse your hull half again as fast as you used to, and you're able to bounce, 2 more shots than you would have, at least you can thank everybody that you got that. So big buff to traverse speed, higher top speed on the E75, not as good acceleration. What I would like to know about is the Yag Tiger, because what I'm really worried about is the Yag Tiger's been made heavier, and I don't even have rigs put on it yet, and it's already 5 tons heavier than my live server Yag Tiger. The Yag Tiger's been made heavier. It's lost 170 horsepower. It got a traverse speed buff, though, which is nice. So we'll find out. I'm afraid the Yag Tiger is going to actually be slower than the Yag Tiger 88 because it's got the same horsepower and it's heavier. So we'll have to wait until the live server to see that because frankly I don't feel like testing it. Not going to lie. So let's get on to the video that is actually supposed to be happening now after my kind of little disclaimer thingy about some of the German engines.